In today's show, it's a mailbag episode answering listener-submitted questions about which direction the Blazers are headed this off-season, the NCAA Tournament, and who to watch, and yes, air mattresses. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You listen to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen, coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. Today's episode, a mailbag edition. We're going to answer questions about which direction the Blazers are headed. I got a viewer's guide for the NCAA Tournament at the request of a listener. And yeah, I got a question about air mattresses. We'll do that to close the show. If you want to get involved in a future mailbag episode, LockedOnBlazersPod@gmail.com is the email address. How I do it is typically like just send me an email. That's the best way to do it. But typically I will give you a heads up, like a 24-hour heads up, and say, hey, tomorrow's show is going to be a mailbag episode, and you can send me an email there. Or next week's, Monday, send me a question over the weekend. Monday show is going to be a mailbag episode. So like the way to get involved in a future mailbag episode is to become an everydayer. It's to become an everyday listener, because then you won't miss the call for it. And once you hear the call, LockedOnBlazersPod@gmail.com is the address. All right, let's get into it. Our first question is not a question, which is why if you're watching on YouTube, you can probably hear my voice as well. So I'm laughing. This one comes from listener Alex. This is just a threat. Alex offers the following threat. Are you prepared for this team to be worse next year? There are very logical reasons why Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant, and Malcolm Brogdon could all be traded this offseason or at next year's trade deadline. Additionally, without a star piece and a better draft in 2025, we could see the Blazers tumble down the standings even more than the past few years. That doesn't have a question at the end of it. It only has a question at this part that says, are you prepared for this team to be worse next year? The question is, are you, buddy? Are you prepared for this? Yeah, I'm strapped in. Let's go. You don't do this every day. Let me give a little background here before I get into the nitty-gritty of this. I started doing Locked On Blazers in 2019. But I didn't take it super seriously. I wasn't as good at it. I've gotten a lot better at it. In 2020, I started to take it a lot more seriously and started to make it the show it has become, and has grown from there. And even over the last 4 years, I've improved a great deal, and I'm proud of the work I do every day. The Blazers haven't played a meaningful game in like closing in on 1,000 days. I'm ready for whatever. This doesn't scare me. Like for selfish reasons, I would like the Blazers to be better because I think people listen more to a podcast about a good team, and when it's like every game when they lose 75% of the games, and it's like, you know what, they played okay. That's like kind of just a boring podcast to do. I would love to talk about meaningful basketball games on here. Meaningful basketball is my favorite part of the NBA. But I think the rest of this threat from Alex, send your threats to LockedOnBlazersPod@gmail.com. The rest of this threat is really, I think, meaningful logic that everyone should heed here. There is not an indication that the Blazers are going to be better next year. There are plenty of reasons to think they'll be better. Scoot Henderson probably be better in year 2. Shaedon Sharpe healthier in year 2. Potentially a little bit of Rob Williams. Probably won't have that 25 game stretch of DeAndre Ayton being super buns. Generally more healthy, although I don't know, it's hard to always predict that type of thing. Maybe every time he's missed, 18 games of that fractured thumb right away. He's also young and can get better. And they got, they have a massive crew of youngsters in Jabari Walker and Toumani Camara and Chris Murray, who can all get better, right? Like the internal improvement is ripe, right? Like it just easily happen in that manner. But the core of their best players, Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant, and Malcolm Brogdon, the Blazers would be foolish not to explore the market for trading all of those guys this summer, and again explore the market for trading all of those guys at the trade deadline. If they got to move probably one of them this summer, and probably one of the guards, and certainly one of the guards. Let me put more fine of a point on it. I know what I think. They have to explore. They have to trade either Anthony Simons or Malcolm Brogdon. I've done a show about why you would choose Brogdon over Ants, although I think the Blazers will, and I think at this stage I might, depending on if you really get blown away by Simon's offer. But you got to trade one of them. That'll probably make you a little bit worse because those guys are more helpful than the youngsters at this stage. And like, they are still searching for it. They're going to add some rookies to the rotation, either one or several to the rotation with their 4 draft picks they've got coming in June. There are friends of mine who believe pretty strongly, shout out to Basketball Gabe, who believe pretty strongly that that's Basketball Gabe is from the Rip City Report fame. Who believe pretty strongly that the Blazers were healthy, they would have won like 35 to 40 games. I don't think that. I don't think I'm on that level. I think they would have won more games. They're probably going to win like 22, 23 this year, maybe, at the most. So like, I think they might have won 30-ish, like north of 30, but like, I don't think they were like approaching a 500 level team. I don't think they were sniffing the play-in, even if they were fully healthy all year. I don't believe that. And I believe they might be worse next year because of the needing to trade, the likelihood that they'll trade some or several vets. You can throw Rob Williams in there too, depending on his sort of future with the franchise, and also just like the general question mark about his health. They're unlikely to nail like a true star in this draft, because the knock on this draft isn't that aren't a lot of role players, is that they're all role players, right? It's like it's a lot of, I believe Sam Vecini said that no one in this draft class, he wrote today in The Athletic, that no one in this 2024 draft class is a tier 1 or tier 2 player in his rankings. They're all tier 3 and below. So it is a step down from certainly the previous 2 drafts and one of the sort of lower drafts in terms of top end talent. They're just unlikely to bring top end talent. And you might say, but Mike, Joe Cronin promised that the team wouldn't take a step back. And I say, yeah, like I know that has been some reporting out there, specifically from Yahoo Sports and ESPN, that the Blazers want to maintain some veterans on the roster and heading into next season, and move forward with an ability to sort of balance young players and veteran players, and not be god awful, follow up the Houston Rockets path, right? And the Houston Rockets are going to be they're on a heater right now. They've won 6 in a row, but they're going to probably finish shy of the play-in. But they're a competitive team. They also don't have a draft pick of their own in this year's draft, so there's no reason for them to lose on purpose. The Blazers will have draft picks. There's the 2025 draft might have stars. There's going to be some incentive for them to lose on purpose at the end of the year if they're not good. And I don't think that there's a magic wand that's going to make them like really competitive. I think they're going to be bad again. They might be more compelling and more fun, but I think they're probably going to have a bad record yet again next year. So yeah, I think it's real, and according to like Alex's thread is real, that it might be worse. The other thing you might be saying is that Joe Cronin said at his midseason press conference that they don't want to take any more steps back. Joe Cronin had said at his midseason press conference the year before that they were anxious to trade for a player to build around Damian Lillard, and they were going to overpay to do so. I'm not sure I believe those press conferences. I'm not this. At this point, show don't tell, because the telling has just been false. It's been a series of falsehoods. Whether like even if those falsehoods need context, and everything happens because you have opportunities do or do not present themselves. But like Cronin sat there and said he was going to do everything he could to build around Dame, and then did nothing he could to build around Dame, and ended up trading him. And it seemed like that must plan the whole time. I'm not sure I trust him when he says that they don't have any interest in taking a step back. They didn't unload any of the vets to begin with, so maybe that's part of it, but they're going to have to at some point. They're up against it with the cap. They're up against it with a full roster, with rookies coming in. I think Alex's threat is real. They might be worse on purpose, and that might be the right move. I want to be clear here. That might be the right move. It is not a mistake necessarily to be worse next year. It might be frustrating. It might be exhausting. 4 years of a team that is not particularly interested in being competitive to varying degrees over the last 4 seasons. But if you don't have a star to build forward with, you're not building much. The Blazers have done a good job at finding role players. They haven't found that foundational piece yet. And if the path to do so, which it is for a team like Portland, is almost certainly building through the draft. Obviously, you need to pursue all the avenues, but free agency is a place where you add role players pretty much for every team in the league. Almost no one signs stars in free agency, and and trades. You have to have good things to get good things, and I don't think the Blazers are necessarily in that trade for a star cycle in team building. So if they're going to get a star, if they're going to get a really good player on this team in this city, in this market, it's going to be through the draft. And the way that you get that is making a high draft pick. And the way that you get high draft picks is losing basketball games. So are you prepared for them to be worse next season? I am. I'm not worried about it. I can see where it would turn some people off a great deal, and I totally understand that. But to me, I'm not afraid. Let's keep it rolling with more mailbag questions, including one about which games to watch in the opening round of the NCAA tournament. But first, let's talk eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks to exhaust kits to LED headlights and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts to choose from for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, baby, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. All right. Next question, as we roll along in our mailbag episode, this next one, if you want to send me a mailbag question, lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com, lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com. This next question comes from Seth, and it's not a threat. It's a real life question. It has a question mark. What are the games you're going to be paying attention to come Thursday for the first round of the men's NCAA tournament, with an eye on the Blazers and the NBA draft? So I did this heading into the conference tournaments. I talked about a viewing schedule for the weekend ahead, for all the sort of first round picks that I was going to try to get an eye on on a Friday afternoon. It's actually a Friday all day affair, 10 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. games all day long. So thanks to this tip from Seth and Keith Smith over at Spot Rack, he put together an incredible viewer's guide that is really helpful, and I'm going to link that in the episode description for this episode. But I've got a whole list of who I'm going to watch. I want to be honest. This is not how I watch the opening weekend of the NCAA tournament. I think the opening weekend of the NCAA tournament is as fun as it gets. I fill out a bracket, like I fill out a bracket and pretend to be an expert. I'm a lot of people's sports friend. Believe it or not, a lot of people know me as this guy who likes sports. So I get invited to a bunch of brackets, and they think that I'm going to win, and I don't win. I haven't really been very good at predicting brackets since 1997, when I was incredible as a youngster. But it's been a tough road for the following 30 years. I'm pretty bracket agnostic. Like, I don't care. I filled out a bracket and then I'm like, who cares? I'm rooting for the North Carolina Tar Heels. I don't need to fill out a bracket to root for Carolina. I'm going to root for them regardless. But the way I watch the opening weekend is not to scout NBA players. Like, I'm going to watch, particularly Thursday and Friday morning, I'm going to watch to see some teams and some dudes I've never heard of go full Ali Farouk-Manesh. Like, I am looking for the fun of the tournament. I miss the days when there was one channel and they'd bounce you around to the good games. Now you kind of got to pay attention and change your TV over to get the good games. And like, I have a day job and it's hard to like pay attention to the games that are close. And also like, be a productive employee, but sorry to my boss who's probably not listening, but Thursday and Friday, it could be tough in the mornings. So I'm not going to watch these games for NBA stars, But if you were, I put together a list for you. And instead of focusing on the lottery picks and the first rounders, the Blazers are likely to have 2 first round picks between theirs and Golden State. The Blazers also have 2 high second round picks. They have, right now it's projected to be 34 and 40, but that'll be finalized. Second round picks are determined by record, but they're going to have 2 of the first 10 picks in the second round probably. That's good picks. I wouldn't be surprised, based on the way the new CBA works, if the Blazers make 0 of these second round picks. I wouldn't be surprised if they trade both of these to other teams or package them with a vet to trade on draft night, because they're valuable to particularly teams with expensive rosters. There are second round exceptions to make it so you can add second rounders to the roster, and it's a little bit different CBA wise without getting too much in the weeds. But I've got a viewer's guide. Let's get into it. Seth was just interested in Thursday. I'm going to give you Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, the whole friggin' first round. Wednesday is a play-in. Wednesday night, Colorado plays against Boise State, 6:10 p.m. tip-off out here in Portland. That's 6:10 West Coast time. Tristan Da Silva, power forward for Colorado, and KJ Simpson, their point guard, both second-round types to keep an eye on. Then, Thursday morning, things get going. I'm not going to be doing NBA scouting, but I've made my list, so I'm going to, if they catch my eye, I'll know their name. Creighton's Baylor Shireman. That's 10:30 a.m. Creighton taking on Akron. All-American. Get your eyes on him. A hooper with some range and wears a headband. Someone to watch. He's going to be a second round type. 11 a.m. Thursday morning, Arizona takes on Long Beach State. They've got a couple second round types in their wing core. Keyshawn Johnson and Pella Larson, the shooting guard and a small forward. That kind of those like 6'5" to 6'6" wings that have some. Keyshawn's more big, but like he could shoot. He blocks shots a little bit. Yeah, I think he's worth keeping an eye on for in the second round. That's at 11 a.m. 12:10 Thursday morning or Thursday afternoon. Illinois takes on Morehead State. Terrence Shannon Jr. Dude scored 40 points in his conference tournament. Like, it's buckets. Check him out. Always fun to see like high volume scores in the NCAA tournament. It's like, is this dude going to score 41 of a team's 59 points or something absurd like that? That's 12:10 for Illinois. At 1:30, Dayton and Deron Holmes the second play Nevada. Deron Holmes, big man from Dayton, probably like a late-ish second round pick worth getting eyeballs on. 4:10, Kentucky just has a cajillion pros. I mean, they kind of always have a cajillion pros, but they have a bunch of dudes who, if they come out, could be pros. DJ Wagner, DeJuan Wagner's son, if you know. Ugo Onyenso, big man, kind of shot blocking, rim rolling big man. Justin Edwards, who was at one time maybe considered a first round pick. I know that Raphael Barlow, friend of the Locked On NBA Big Board, really liked him and had him as high as number 1 at one point, but he's kind of fallen off a little bit. And Big Z, Zvonimir Ivisic, the big man in the middle. All 4 of those dudes could hear their names called on draft night, along with the 2 Kentucky guys that are going to go in the top 10, in Dillingham and Shepard. Kentucky, 4:10 p.m. out here. They play Oakland in the opening round. I missed it in my run-through, but Carolina plays at 11:45 on Thursday morning. I'm definitely going to watch that game. So I'm going to miss some others. I'm going to be locked into my Tar Heels. I don't think either of their stars are draftable. I don't think Armando Bacot's a pro. I don't think RJ Davis is a pro. They're both incredibly fun and excellent college basketball players. And the thing that I love about them is that they're good players and they wear the jersey I like. I think the only pro on the team right now is probably Harrison Ingram. He's projected by ESPN to be like a mid to late first round guy if he leaves, late second round guy if he leaves. He's like a do everything forward who can really rebound but can't really shoot. But I adore his game as a fan. I'm not sure he translates to being a high-level NBA player, but I will tell you this is a real thing that happened. I pitched Joe Cronin on drafting Harrison Ingram one time, and he at least heard me out. I don't think he took me seriously at all. So that gets you through your Thursday games. Friday games, there's a couple that you all should watch, a couple guys for you all to watch. UConn's Alex Caravan, UConn's got pros, but they play, that's your sort of second round, 34-40 range for you. a wing for UConn. They play Stetson 11:45 a.m. on Friday morning, and then Clemson, PJ Hall, power forward. He kind of plays center for him. He's probably a 4 at the next level, but he might be an undersized 5. He could play. He's not a great athlete, but he's strong. He has some range, although he doesn't shoot a ton of threes. An interesting second round pick because I think he's like a solid player. They play New Mexico at 12:10 on Friday afternoon. Those are your second round guys to know. When we get to the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8, that the following weekend, next weekend, then I'll really hammer in on pros to watch and all of that. But I think the fun part of the first round is just like enjoying it. But that gets you through Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. All some second round folks to keep an eye on. Kind of guys who are projected more as role players in the league, see how they fill a role for their teams in the tournament. If you have a second round target that you like, share it in the YouTube comments below or email me, lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com. Okay, to close today's program, I got a question from a friend about air mattresses. You might know what I'm talking about. If you don't, join me in the third segment. You'll learn what I'm talking about. First, though, let's talk Nissan's new lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. If you're the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further, or you ever wonder what adventure could be around the corner, then our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs that you're going to love, including the 2024 Nissan Rogue, perfect for city drives and great escapes. It's got class exclusive Google built right into your always updating assistant that you can call on for almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. You got Google Assistant, Google Maps, and the Google Play Store built right into a 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. It's a 2024 Nissan Rogue. It's the perfect midsize crossover for your next adventure. And what about the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder? It's got room for 8, an expansive cargo capacity, and advanced available 4x4 capability with 284 horsepower and up to 6,000 pounds towing. When adventure calls, the Pathfinder is there to answer. Bring your friends and bring all your friends' stuff and go have a little fun in the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder. Take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop nissanusa.com. All right, still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond, and you are still listening to Locked On Blazers. A friend texted me today, and the text message read, "How many nights have you slept on an air mattress?" And I clarified whether they meant consecutive nights or they meant like total nights in my adult life or total nights in my life period. It meant consecutive nights. So it's the most consecutive number of nights that I've ever slept on an air mattress. And I don't know. To be honest, I don't know the answer to this question. The other way to get a question on the show is to know me personally and send me a text message. This person's going to remain anonymous because I do not think they wanted this shared on the podcast. But I don't know. When I was a kid, we used to sleep on futons on the floor. We'd go get a futon from the attic at my grandma's house. We'd bring them down to the floor, and my cousin, shout out to cousin Jake, me and my cousin Jake would sleep on the floor for like a week, 4 or 5 days when we were at my grandma's house in late December, like post-Christmas family hang, all up in Pittsburgh. It was kind of, I grew up in the 90s. Air mattresses were invented at the latter half of the decade. So we didn't have that technology. Certainly had an air mattress in my home. So I would guess the most nights I've ever slept, I would guess is 3, but I can't pinpoint it. That's lower than DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton has slept on an air mattress, or at least claims to have slept on an air mattress for quite some time. And he even suggests that perhaps that extended stretch of life on the air mattress maybe caused some of his early season struggles. Hence the weird text message. In a story written by Aaron Fentress of the Oregonian, Fentress wrote a little feature on DA. It's good stuff. Go check it out. Doing the work of the beat, right? Guy plays well, you write a little feature on him. And DA has played well, and Fentress kind of captures like how he got here from early season when he was bad. And then now he's hooping. Now he's really, really playing well, and kind of what went into getting him right. And one of the things, like the little anecdotes, and it's a very small thing, but it got like picked up by this sort of aggregation machine because it's kind of a wild quote. It's not kind of a wild quote. It's a wild quote. And the aggregation machine finds wild quotes. And this podcast is basically an aggregation machine with a little bit more opinions, and like 10 years of media experience or whatever. But I don't care about that. I know I'm an aggregator. I just know that I'm proud of the work I do in this aggregation world. I don't think of it as a bad word necessarily. It is a bad word when I use it for the most part, though. The aggregation machine catches on crazy quotes or wild quotes, I should say. This is a wild quote. The larger context of the story, there's like more to it than that. But the quote itself, and I'm going to read it to you. Ayton said on Thursday he was feeling his way through the offense and playing with new players, but there was more to his struggles. Fentress writes, "My body just wasn't my body," he said, he being Ayton. "People forget the humane difference of me adjusting to everything. That included something as routine as getting proper sleep," Fentress writes. And here's the quote. "Just being comfortable and waking up. I didn't have a bed for quite some time. I was on an air mattress, just trying to figure this out." DeAndre Ayton's making north of $30 million. He could get a bed pretty quick, I think. Oh, gosh. The story goes on to add context about how Ayton was getting sort of situated with his family, coming in and out of town. He was traded basically right before training camp. Comes to training camp, jumps into the season, you get going. He probably had a little heads up, a couple days heads up, maybe even a week heads up that he was likely to get traded. So certainly his name was out in the rumor mill, and even the publicly, like the days leading up to the trade actually being finalized, it was very clear that the Blazers were trying to trade for DeAndre Ayton from like our perspective. And I'm going to assume if we know, like the sort of viewing public, DeAndre Ayton knew, like he knew. But he moved up here in a whirlwind, and he says, he's got family coming in and out. He's moving to a new city. And he also had to consider the changes, for his young son, for DeAndre Ayton Jr. That's a lot, right? Like there's a human element of switching teams and switching cities and roles and all of that stuff, right? That is really, I've talked about it before. It's like there is a uniquely strange part of the NBA where you just up and move to a new city, and what your job is to do is to get on the plane and go to the new city and continue doing your job. And DeAndre Ayton for sure experienced the bizarre human element of NBA trades, right? But the mattress stuff is different. Like, I didn't know what city my son was going to be in, right? Is a whole different thing. I was trying to get situated and figuring out which members of my family and which, people on my team were going to be moving up here with me, and who was going to stay in Arizona, where I've, spent most of my adult and teenage life, and like all those things, right? Like the sort of, and all of there's always more to sort of family and personal details than we could possibly know about who goes where and why and all of these things, right? You get a mattress in 8 hours. We used to advertise for mattresses here on the program. They sent me a mattress. It came to my house from the moment I filled out a little email. 2 days. It's a comfy mattress. It's not as nice as what DA would probably want. Like, if he needed a mattress, the Blazers have like a team liaison that could like specifically help with this. DA makes enough money that he could just give someone who works for the team, like one of the team attendants, be like, "Do you want to make $1,000? Go buy me a mattress today." They go to PJ Sleep World out on Hawthorne, get a used mattress. The mattress thing is like an excuse so bizarre that of course it was popular on the internet, because it is so bizarre as to be disconnected from reality. The actual struggles of adjusting to new teammates and a new city and a new home and what your family extended and immediate is going to do is all real. that I was sleeping on an air mattress for quite some time and my body wasn't right is not an excuse that tracks in any space in the NBA that makes even a modicum of sense. It is divorced from any level of reality I could possibly imagine, and yet it's a real thing that happened to the Blazers center, who's sleeping on an air mattress for quite some time. I don't know how long I've been sleeping on an air mattress, and here's what I'll say to close the show here. I'm glad DA got a real bed, because now that he has a real bed, he's hooping. He's hooping. He's playing really well now that he has a real bed. It took him a while to get going, and I'm sure it was a variety of factors, including an inflatable mattress. But now my man's hooping. He's been, over the last 15 or so games, he's been the player that we were promised, right? He's and even better than that. He's been really, really good. Obviously, he still has his warts, and he only takes 15-footers and blah, 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 blah. But, like, he's playing really well, and so this is, like, I feel a lot more comfortable laughing about the mattress thing than, like, being like, is this a bigger problem than we think? I think it's really, like, a silly thing to look back on. I'll say this. That's a great quote. That's good reporting, because that's a great quote. Guys are going to be sensitive in this sort of modern world. Like, players don't need media the way that they did 20 years ago. They don't. The media apparatus has less value to players. So I really respect people who, like, go out and do the work, ask questions and write a story like that. That's go into the locker room, ask questions, and write a unique story. I will say, though, when you get the air mattress quote and it goes viral, you can see why people are like, dang, I do not want to do media, because they're going to make fun of me about my bed when I was trying to share, like, more personal details about the challenges to adjust. That is going to do it for today's mailbag episode. I hope you are all sleeping on your mattress of choice this evening or whenever you might be listening to it. This is Wednesday, March 20th show. And on this evening, the Blazers play the first of two games against the Clippers, Wednesday and Friday, with home games against the Clippers. Thursday show in your feeds will be a recap of that game, and then Friday we'll look ahead to the weekend as the Blazers continue on trucking along, including some NCAA tournament talk. If some draft prospects popped in the first day of Thursday's games, including nonstop Harrison Ingram coverage. Just kidding. But yeah, that's what we do 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, and also on YouTube. So tell your friends about the program. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.